Welcome to this presentation on community engagement and collaborative interactions. My name is Professor Alexis de Waele, and within the Erasmus Plus project, Socially Engaged Universities, we particularly focus on sharing experience and know-how related to community-university partnerships. In this particular presentation, I will talk about the broad concept of collaborative interactions and try to answer the question, how do we enable collaboration with stakeholders and make it successful? But first, I want to address the even broader question. Why would we want to focus so much time and energy on these collaborative processes? The answer is that past experience shows us that no single discipline or type of stakeholder has solved what we call a wicked problem. A wicked problem refers to a problem that is difficult or impossible to solve because of incomplete, contradictory, or changing requirements that are often difficult to recognize. To solve wicked problems, we often need multiple partners or types of stakeholders, different kinds of knowledge, and experts from different disciplines and backgrounds. When we talk about community problem solving, I believe that this concept or these words inherently refer to the fact that lived experience or applied knowledge is often underplayed and lacks recognition. To understand collaborative interactions, I will draw upon the results of a recently published study that is accessible through the QR code on the screen. The study is what we call a meta-ethnography. What a meta-analysis is for quantitative research, a meta-ethnography is for qualitative research. It is a unique, systematic, qualitative synthesis approach widely used to provide robust evidence on beliefs, experiences, and understandings of complex social phenomena. To put it more simply, we synthesized the results of different peer-reviewed qualitative studies that are mainly based on conducting in-depth interviews or focus group discussions with diverse stakeholders involved in a collaboration with researchers from social sciences and humanities. Our main aim was to answer the question, what defines a successful collaborative interaction? For this study, we did an elaborate search in 2 scientific databases and ran queries using a 5-fold search string with a combination of keywords such as academia, stakeholder, co-creation, knowledge transfer, and social sciences. This led us to almost 3,700 studies. Based on the exploration of titles and abstracts, we were able to exclude many studies that were off-topic. Finally, 44 manuscripts were fully read, and eventually 8 were integrated into the study for synthesizing results. The synthesis led to identifying 3 important themes, namely the role of the organizational context, the role of incentives and advantages associated with a collaboration, and finally the role of mediating staff, brokers, and champions. Our study also led to developing a new theoretical model, which is depicted here on the screen. I will explain this model more thoroughly at the end of this presentation. Within academia, researchers are often quite aware of the role their university plays in driving their research agenda. Researchers are often driven to publish in peer-reviewed international journals and to attract additional funding for research. In terms of collaboration, some authors refer to what they call multiplex collaborative relationships, which are under rapid expansion and diversification, but at the same time are threatened since they are sometimes perceived as incompatible with an academic identity and achieving academic impact. From that perspective, investing in external activities could even backfire, as some researchers perceive this to be in contrast with what they are supposed to do for their academic career. Organizational agendas sometimes conflict, as is apparent in the first quote, where a media and cultural studies researchers in the early stages found it hard to follow the museum's political agenda, which was mainly directed towards an outreach program targeting those who were seen as being excluded from culture. The second quote is from a historian who organized 2 workshops for youngsters about the Holocaust in collaboration with a museum. This historian refers to the fact that, at a certain moment, an academic role aligned with her community engagement, but that this had not always been the case in the past. Therefore, finding the right fit between organizations is essential in tackling these asymmetries. So let's talk about the advantages or barriers to a successful collaboration, since we found that to be an important theme in the qualitative studies as well. We cannot do everything ourselves, and often one of the perceived benefits is that we are able to achieve more together. The first quote gives a good example of this. Through collaboration with a museum and their IT department, a researcher is able to help develop a smartphone application. The development of such a physical artifact is usually outside of the realm of academia. A collaboration with individuals who have expertise different than your own is sometimes perceived as drawing you into a new space or dimension, where both conflict and new balanced opinions and insights are created. One perceived advantage of working together with researchers is that they are often seen as knowledgeable and legitimate, as in not driven by a political agenda. Finally, the last quote illustrates that developing a language that enforces these collaborations might help as well. From that perspective, specific new concepts, such as productive interactions, have been shown to be useful in providing legitimacy for a collaboration with stakeholders. Effective brokers can help to develop such a common language, which then becomes a tool that establishes a shared way of looking at things. The important role of brokers is also illustrated by the first quote on the screen. The quote shows that a facilitator has to be able to accept that collaborative processes are relatively fluid. They go back and forth with sometimes unpredictable outcomes. It is also important that researchers are able to take some distance from a narrow academic perspective. The second quote refers to a professor who was working with a pioneering Brazilian organization created in a favela in 1993 that offers young people positive alternatives to the drug gang culture. He testifies that brokering also means not putting yourself and your expertise at the center, but rather facilitating the collaboration. This brings us back to the theoretical model that we developed, which describes successful knowledge diffusion amongst stakeholders. It shows that collaborative relationships usually occur in a multiplex environment where stakeholders' ideas and knowledge are not well aligned due to organizational asymmetries. Effective brokers succeed in bringing stakeholders into a new dimension where distortion and conflict are allowed, yet creativity and mutual understanding eventually lead to knowledge diffusion and to solving a complex challenge.